welcome to Making Waves. This is episode 90, number 90. This is our Halloween edition for 2022. So we couldn't think of anyone better than, a friend of Chad's that now I am becoming friends with. So everyone, please welcome Myles Eufurth. Did I spell it right? Eufurth? Did I say it right?
It's Erfurth.
Erfurth. Myles Eufurth. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah,
that's
it's
a mouthful, brother. All right. What
German.
Myles? He Myles is one of those. Myles has a Y in his name too, so we gotta deal with that. As well.
He's the Bob Blah Blah of horror directors.
He is the Bob. That's where we're going. So anyway, Myles, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. We were talking before we started about how we were making waves, is trying to we all want to branch out from time to time, and music is our thing, but film is so closely related as far as a creative endeavor, and the people who make it are just as much kind of outlier creatives. We spoke about earlier having Bill Moseley on, which is a horror icon, and now we have you, and you work more behind the scenes as a director, writer, and I imagine cinematographer at some point in your life.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. So tell us about you, man. I mean, I know your horror is kind of your thing. What I'm really interested in, I was just seeing this thing. You also do music videos. So let's talk about that to kind of ease us in here. So you've worked with the band Twiztid, and also someone I find super interesting, Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth.
Yeah.
How was that meeting of the minds?
that was super cool, man. I actually met Twiztid through Chad, and they pretty much at first everybody kind of was feeling each other out, and then we ended up going with more of like, it was supposed to be like all 4 videos kind of thread together to make a story. And
okay.
The album was called Unlikely Prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a mad scientist, I guess, and
mm-hmm.
he had basically like all these different creatures that, like, in the end it kind of built up to making his own serial killer and unleashing him on rural Michigan. And that's kind of where it went. But the Danny Filth thing, it was kind of like a sidetrack on the storyline, and that was Neon Vamp. And
mm-hmm.
basically, the mad scientist injects this sleeping girl in rural Detroit or rural Michigan, and she kind of wakes up a vampire and wreaks havoc on who's ever in her path, basically.
Yeah, it's funny because we had Twiztid on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we had them on months back, and it's so funny because obviously the ICP thing, they get kind of lumped together, but Twiztid was always the darker version of what they were doing, right? Like kind of the horror sect of what that whole thing is. So working with you, and Danny, that now it makes sense now talking about it and thinking about their direction and angle and stuff like that. I got to ask you, like, it's something when we ever asked us in the music, I said, what took you to film and wanting to be a creative in that industry? And also, I'm sure you do things outside of horror, but horror is kind of your thing. What led you to that genre in particular?
Growing up, I was always a horror fan. And, when I was a little kid, like, I was always drawn to films like, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and Psycho. I was always just sneaking behind my parents' backs at the video store, trying to grab like whatever horror movie I could and bring it home, and shuffle it between whatever games or videos I was allowed to play or watch. And I traumatized myself over and over again because I'd sit up at night like, fuck, man, like, horror. I was always drawn to, like, kind of the darker shit. And then basically I didn't really think that I could ever like make my own movies or make my own music videos. And my parents always like drilled it into me, like, well, you could always be whatever you want to be if you try hard enough. And then like one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. And moved out to LA, started working on ABC's Wipeout. and ended
The
up,
game show.
yeah, the game show, and ended up kind of cutting my teeth there through a family friend, and operated cameras, and kind of that's where I learned how to shoot and things like that. And then moved to Miami for a couple of years, and I did hip hop videos with like Lil Wayne and Birdman and guys like that. And I would always shoot. And then, I started like watching and being like, I could do that guy's job. I could direct, and so I started writing, and I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make my first horror short. And so I did, and I submitted it to film festival and ended up winning a couple prizes. And then I got hired to direct this movie called Crocodile. And it was basically a crocodile man, creature feature. So Amazon ended up licensing it for Amazon Prime. And I moved back to LA, and kind of fell into a niche of being kind of like the horror guy. And then I meet kind of like-minded artists who are musicians, and make videos for them if they're drawn to darker things. And I actually there's this artist named Eva Toric who I recently worked with, and I got to like recreate my version of hell, basically, through VR and green screen and things like that. So that's coming up. And working with Twiztid was great. They're like just as sick as I am, down for whatever. Like, you want to smash people. One of the videos was called Corkscrew, and basically that was the culmination of all these videos. And that was the one where we had this kind of masked psychotic man run around Michigan and kill people with a giant corkscrew.
Funny enough, I still have a lot of those corkscrews in my kitchen.
It's funny you speak about how you reminds me of Adam Green. Remember, Adam just make that he basically he was down in New Orleans, took a video camera like on a little bayou tour, and like stuck the camera over the water, and just basically put a soundbite over it. And basically said he created a trailer for a movie that never existed. And the guy was like, "We want you to do this." And he's like, "I guess I'll figure out how to make this movie now." That's a good thing. When you get put into a corner, you're like, "Well, it's shit or swim." And the thing about horror, especially independent horror, and I think it kind of goes back to you talking about like watching those films like Psycho. I mean, Hitchcock at that time had some, he was lauded in the industry. But let's take Carpenter during the first Halloween. Scrapped together $300,000, found a producer who'd go for it. And there's no gatekeepers in independent horror. It's like, make it great. You know what? Because content right now is all these Amazon and everyone, Netflix, Hulu, they all want content. So quite honestly, it doesn't always have to be top level stuff or stuff you might go, I'm into horror, but like the premise of the movie you made, you're kind of like, it's kind of tongue in cheek and fun. It's like, it's kind of like a take on a Manitor.
Yeah. So well, I mean, that was the thing too, is like the guy that approached me to make it. He's like, I'd like you to direct this film. And I was like, like a giant crocodile terrorizing a town, because that's what it was originally. I'm not really interested in that. And he's like, well, what if I gave you complete creative control? And I was like, well, then I'd make it a crocodile man. And like, so I wasn't really into CGI and things like that. And so anything practical where I can control the effects, especially with low budget horror, I was totally into that. And it's a fun movie, and as long as you go into it watching it, thinking, oh, I'm going to have fun, rather than like, oh, I'm going to be scared, and I think that's a whole genre in and of itself too, because like, the Terrifier 2 that's like, making all these headlines right now. I saw it twice. It's like, it's more fun than scary. People just go to that because they want to see the violence.
Yeah, because gore gets to a point where it like steps over that line to where it's just becomes silly. And that's the great thing about, like, you're talking about, like, hey, I've got the small budget. It's gonna have fun with it, because Trauma and Toxic Avenger let people have that freedom to like, you know what? It's just going to be silly because the audience knows we only have like 50 grand or whatever to spend on this film. So at some point, yeah, Terrifier 2, like, it's like, it stuff does not happen. So we're just going to take it so far over the top that it's just fun at that point, you know?
Yeah, and that movie's just
Mhm.
blowing up right now.
Yeah, and it's funny the whole. So the Crocodile guy, I had to get this thought off my head. Talk about the Crocodile guy. If you're a 12-year-old to 18-year-old kid right now, unless you're really dialed in, Jaws doesn't mean a lot to you. That's something my dad watched or my grandpa. But you know what does? Sharknado.
Yeah,
That means a shit ton to you. So
yeah.
you know what? It's like you didn't have to put out a Lake Placid type movie, you know, with the whole crocodile scheme, and like
Exactly.
you create this other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so much fun. And you know, I got to work with all my friends down there in Florida. Like they have their own kind of talent pool to pull from as far as like, you know, actors and actresses go. But yeah, with that, like I DP'd, I was my own cinematographer. I edited the whole thing myself, lit it myself. Like it was pretty much the one-man band. And
Yeah, what was it? Rebel Without a Crew? Is that Rodriguez's book?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't anything close to what Robert Rodriguez put out, but you know,
I don't know, dude. What was the one he did
Crocodile.
there? What was the one he did there in correlation with Tarantino? The Grindhouse one. What was his?
Planet Terror.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is better in my opinion. I like that better than the
Death Proof. Death Proof
Death
was,
Proof.
dude. That was a godhead movie. That was awesome, man. Death Proof is incredible.
It's a good movie. I preferred when I watched both of them back to back. I just preferred the Rodriguez.
You like Rose McGowan? Just give in, bro. Just give in.
I totally forgot she was even in that film. But yeah, that leg, the gun leg that she had, that was badass. You know. But I wanted to kind of like, speaking of like satirical, almost horror films, like a Dale and Tucker. What does that mean to you? Dale and Tucker versus Evil. Are you into stuff like that too?
You know, it's weird because I just had this conversation the other day with a buddy of mine. Cause like, you know, I'll go out with guys that are like, you know, like
Super
me.
hot.
Yeah, super hot dudes. You know, like me and my buddies will go check out a horror film or whatever, then we'll nerd out afterwards and be like, yeah, well, and then, you know, Dale and Tucker versus Evil got brought up and Shaun of the Dead. And, you know, I haven't like really dove into any of those. Like, I just feel like the horror comedy just isn't for me.
Mhm.
Like I like stuff that's supposed like the Terrifier is about like as far as I'll go into that lane because I don't know. I can't get into it. It's kind of like I never really got into you know, like the spoof films so much.
Like Naked Gun and
Naked Gun or Scary Movie.
Yeah,
Scary
yeah,
Movie.
Yeah, like I couldn't do it. I mean, the first Scary Movie, there's parts of Scary Movie, you know, with the is it Andy Dick?
Yeah.
Where he's playing the butler.
Oh no, that's Chris
Elliott.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah,
Elliott.
yeah.
Oh,
Don't
Tiny
forget about
Hand.
Chris Elliott. My germs.
Yeah. Oh my God, you can never get away with that nowadays.
Speaking of spoofs, real quick, if we're in this talking spoofs, even though they're about as good a spoof and as more talented than any original band doing any even original music, Steel Panther. What's your connection?
Steel Panther.
Yeah.
So my buddy Ben, he manages them, and you know, he called me up and he's like, "Hey man, we're looking for some girls to be in this new video coming out." And he's like, "Do you know any?" I was like, "Yeah, I could. You know, I know some actresses that I could hook you up with." And you know, I was like, speaking of actors and actresses, when do I get to be in a Steel Panther video? Because like I've always been a big Steel Panther
Bucket list.
fan. Yeah, exactly. Big bucket list item. And he goes, "You want to be in the video?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I didn't even know what I was going to do. And they were like, "Oh, well, you're going to be a Scroober driver." And I'm like, "Okay." And then like, you know, it's funny because anybody that knows me, I don't really like drink or smoke weed or whatever. And then when I showed up, they're like, "Okay, so when you pull up, there's going to be like clouds of smoke, like billowing out of the car. You're going to be ripping a bong." And I was like, sick. So I Yeah, so I got to be in the video, and it was called what was it? It's Never Too Late to Get Some Pussy Tonight.
Right.
I forgot about the name of it. To be
Yeah,
honest with you.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
quite the swallow, if you will.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was fun telling my parents, you know, yeah, mom and dad,
Check me out.
I'm in this music video. They're like, what's it called? I'm like, oh, it's Never Too Late to Get Some Pussy.
And your dad's like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
that's fucking right. What time is it?
Yeah,
10 p.m. is usually my cutoff. I just caught the name of the Scroober is what you were driving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Scroober driver. So
Is
yeah,
that how they pitched it to you too? That terminology? They're like, yeah, so we need somebody to be the Scroober driver. And you know?
yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm in.
You were like, I don't even know what that is, but
you know,
camp
Steel Panther. I was there.
Yeah.
So then to top on that about your bucket list, how close to working with Mario Lopez was that to your bucket list? Did he make it at least in the top 10 or what?
No, yeah, working with Mario Lopez was definitely in the top 10. I directed this video recently for these guys, Yachtly Crew, and super fun,
What
super
are they?
fun guys.
If you like Steel Panther and you like the yachts and you like
like Yacht
Michael
Rock.
McDonald's, yes, but it's like a spoofy kind of like
Yachtly Crew. All right, and he's in it.
Oh yeah, so Mario Lopez he's in it, man.
You wearing a tank top?
So he's the bartender in the video, and that was super cool, man. You know, at first I was like, Yachtly Crew, I didn't know what to expect, and I got invited to go check them out live, and you know, huge crowd, kick ass, everybody was into it, wearing yacht hats, and it's a vibe, man. It's like, yeah, I had no idea there's this whole like yacht rock subculture.
Yeah,
and
it goes hard too, right?
Yeah, they're like these people.
The funny thing is, those people don't. They generally kind of, it's irony, right? Because they don't like own those actual records, and they wouldn't go see like the Doobie Brothers live, right? But they certainly want to hear somebody doing a spoof on the Doobie Brothers because it's still kind of cool because you're making fun of this genre, but now you've actually made it cool. So now you're part of the cool part of that genre.
Well, I don't want to say that they're like making fun of it per se.
Yeah,
like,
no, not making fun of it, like, you know, not making light. They have to somehow, because, you know, if they go around their friends, they're like usually going to Modest Mouse and stuff like that and going, yeah, dude, I'm going to go over and check out Kenny Loggins. They're going to be like, you're going to do fucking what?
Yeah.
But if it's done this way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like, it's a fucking party, man. And like, everybody's hammered and they're all wearing yacht hats and all like, woo! It's,
wow, sounds like ShipRocked.
Yeah. But I think they have a residency in Vegas coming up, and you know, people, check it out. Yeah, people are wild, and one of their fans was Mario Lopez. And
no shit, that's how it happened.
And that's how those paths crossed.
That's so funny.
No shit. So was Lopez like? Hold on, let's just not skim past that for 1 second. Are you saying that Mario Lopez has been at their concert as a fan? Much like somebody that would go see Steel Panther, it was like, oh, dude, I love this band. And then somehow somebody told those guys in the band that Lopez was like a deep dog on their dish. And he was all like, what's up, dude? Can you be in our music video? And he said, yes. Is that how or did you have to fish that out? How'd that go?
I don't know that necessarily the inner workings of behind the scenes. I don't know if he was just like at a show or like when they crossed paths. I don't know. I don't know when the magic happened, but when I got hired to do the video, they're like, yeah, there's a small possibility for a cameo for Mario Lopez. And basically the concept of the video is like, this guy's having a bad song's called Sex on the Beach. And, you know, this guy's having a bad week, goes to the bar, and he gets teleported onto a yacht party with the Yachtly Crew. And, you know, the yacht rock fans, some of the fans are on the boat as well. And so he's having a party, he's having a great time, but he's still a little lonely. And insert, you know, the heroine of the video.
Oh.
You know, and she orders a Sex on the Beach as well. And then she's magically transported to the same yacht rock party where Yachtly Crew is present playing, and these two are star-crossed lovers, and they just meet and the sparks fly, and basically the sex on the beach beverage brings them together. It's very romantic, and the person that serves it up is Mario Lopez.
What's in Sex on the Beach? What the ingredients? In
Mario's jizz, pretty much straight up. Only Mario Lopez jizz.
He wrung out his sweatshirt. What? So we don't. No one has a beat on what's in Sex on the Beach.
I have no.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's
what would that be? What be that, Chad?
Oh no, I'm thinking of the tequila, orange juice, and grenadine. That's is that Sex on the Beach, or is that?
I think that's Sex on. No, it's a tequila sunrise, but it's very similar.
I think it's just OJ and vodka. It's vodka.
It's similar to that. I feel like there's some grenadine.
Tequila Sunrise was a shitty movie that starred fucking, I think, Mel Gibson in it. Wasn't it?
It also starred me over top of my toilet bowl last year, multiple nights, as I was delving my life into tequila sunrises.
Fantastic.
It was a pretty
much
hard
bars at sunrise bout, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Well, somebody showed it to me.
Is that where your bar's at? Above your toilet?
Yeah. Yes. Right next to the toilet.
I don't know if
you gonna make me a drink, babe. I got a question. It's a serious question.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about some of your finest moments and your come up, but what are some of your favorite films? Like it could be horror, and maybe it should be. Because of the time of the year, but I would love to know. I don't think I know what you love. Like if you could watch it again right now.
Oh man, like my go-tos, it's like Halloween 3 for some reason.
Wait, what?
Season of the Witch?
Yeah, Season of the Witch, man. You know,
that has no correlation whatsoever.
Yeah, no correlation, but I'm really into Season of the Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, you know.
Okay.
What else? Like House of a Thousand Corpses. You know, that's definitely like kind of like I grew up, you know, loving horror, but that's kind of what like brought me back in. And I was like, man, I didn't even know that you know, a movie could go this far. Because when I saw it, I think it was unrated. It was a Universal in Orlando. And that was the only place that would play it when it first came out. And I saw it on opening weekend. I was like 14 years old. You know, and I was just like enamored because it was like so disturbing and like such a kind of like just, it felt dirty to watch. And I felt like whatever that feeling was, I haven't done it yet, but like I want to recreate that for somebody else. Like it's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like when the first time I opened up and listened to the Iowa album from Slipknot, like it just felt gritty. Like I was holding evil. Like I was listening to something I shouldn't be listening to, or like with the House of a Thousand Corpses, it felt like I was watching something I shouldn't be watching. So like, I don't know. So that movie was like super special for me. So yeah, it's like Psycho, Halloween 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and House of a Thousand Corpses, I think.
So let me ask you. So Rob Zombie, he does these movies, and people always kind of trying to give it a tag, right? You know, it kind of makes them into kind of hillbilly, kind of white trash horror.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is like Chainsaw, the original, the Tobe Hooper one, that could be seen as being that kind of that kind of white trash, but that was only obviously due to budget.
Yeah.
It was the days of hippies, because it was like, was it 73, 74? And that's South Texas at the time, just dirty, it's just dry grass. It's just a lot of dry fucking grass, right? And then obviously the cannibalism aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny, but here's a scene though, and you look at it and go, wow, that's so stylistic. It's classic. It's iconic. And then you look at zombies and go, that's just filth. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, is it because it was just the time or the basically or people how people see zombie is like, dude, what are you? What are you, dude? Like, do you get these movies made because it's just your name or whatever? But I thought Devil's Rejects was a decent film, and I thought his remake of Halloween was fantastic.
I love
Again,
those too.
he couldn't stop white trashing up the front part of it, but I think
Yeah.
giving that backstory that didn't exist before was a really great touch.
Yeah. You know,
So
in my eyes, like, you know, his music aside, because like I like Zombie, you
yeah,
know.
his aesthetic is great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I feel like as far as movies go, like he can't miss. His last one I'm not like the biggest fan of, but like
Which one is
I
that? The Munsters?
no, so I guess yeah, that would be the Munsters. I didn't see
Oh,
the Munsters, but I guess the Three from Hell, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was
31, all that. It kind of like blended in. I was like, is this a? I didn't know if this is a trilogy or what's going on with that. But yeah,
I mean
Psycho though.
I like all of his movies.
Imagine, imagine you're 18, 16, 18, and Psycho comes out from Hitchcock,
Yeah.
and you start going, wow, this is really the. I mean, let's talk about it. It's like it's transitioning and
Yeah.
it's brutal horror. It's brutal. You know, no one has told violence like that before. That
Yeah.
wasn't in Universal horror films. Frankenstein, Dracula. They didn't have someone getting stabbed in the shower. So
No.
you imagine being around at that point, man. You want to talk about a game changer?
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
super fascinating. And I mean, that's
Mhm.
like, you know, really what kind of, you know, it was what I think I was like 8 when I saw it, but I felt like I want to do things like that. You know, like how do I
Oh, make films like that. Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Sorry, you
like
meant that.
just
The
make
content of the
no,
film.
yeah, I want to go kill
Well,
people.
I'm gonna
No,
stab a stranger in the shower.
yeah, no, but
Let me kill my mother.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, but you know, that it's shocking. It was shocking to me, you know, and I'm glad I saw it when I did when I was so
Mhm.
young, because I feel like if I had saw it when I was desensitized to, you know, the movies a little bit, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
appreciated it as much. But my grandma was like, you know, we were at Universal Studios again, and she's like, I found Psycho. It was the backlot tour where they take you through the Psycho house.
Oh
And
wow.
when we come out the other side, they had Psycho on VHS. And I was old enough to get an allowance. And I saved my allowance for when I went to Universal Studios. And I was like, Grandma, I'm going to buy this movie. And she's like, oh, Myles, you know, would your parents let you watch that? And I was like, yeah, they don't care. You know, so I like bought the movie, and, you know, I watched it that night, and I was just like horrified, and I didn't sleep all night.
Yeah.
She came out to like get some water. She's like, Myles, what are you doing? I'm like, Grandma, I can't sleep. She's like, I told you not to buy that movie. So
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? My fear is still like waking up like at night and just a silhouette of Nosferatu's in my hallway.
yeah.
That's still the one that just drives me into the ground. That whole, I mean, obviously they did the makeup because they had to get far enough away from the original Dracula to not get sued, but
Hmm.
they also created this like character like this wasn't even depicted in the book as a rat, a
Yeah.
human rat. It was just that's the one that gets me, or like the it's funny when you talk about modern horror and we're talking about zombie. I don't know about you, man, but did you ever watch and what is your take on 30 Days a Night?
Mm.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. You know, I there's not a lot of horror films that come out that I don't like. And I
Yeah.
think there's this, you know, there's a lot of this undertone. So I belong to a lot of little Facebook groups that, you
Hmm.
know, people just talking shit about, you know, their latest film that they saw or whatever. But like
Yeah.
there's, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh man, that movie sucked, or, you know, they just trash the movie basically. No matter, not the 30 Days a Night, but like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And you know, I try and stick to things like, you know, well, that movie wasn't for me, or I really enjoyed it, because
Hmm.
on the back end, knowing what it takes and knowing that, like, you know, there's like a couple hundred people that avoided time with their families and put a lot of really hard work into these movies.
Yeah.
And you know, so but anyways, I really enjoyed 30 Days a Night. You know, that was kick ass. Yeah.
I was just you because you had mentioned. I feel the same way about that. That probably you felt about House of a Thousand Corpses. It's so visceral. Like
Yeah.
it's like you know the vampires are depicted in all different kinds of ways, right? They glow at night and all this other romantic. They're really just piranhas on the land.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so great. But we're talking about horror. We always talk about the content, right? That's a scary film, but there's such an artistic. There's such beautiful artistic manners to the way that films are shot. Whether it's like the panning uh, during Halloween, the original, right? No one had used a Panavision glide like that before, or like the way that like the suspense is done through Psycho or Jaws, right? Like how
Mhm.
John Spielberg goes, I don't have a shark, but we're just going to use the music as the shark. And you
Yeah.
go, man, there's just as you don't have to have highbrow films or highbrow content to create these beautiful like cinematic experiences.
Yeah.
Is that your take? I mean, is that something you look for when you're working on a project? Like, what is this going to look like? I'm not like the constant gardener. Like, what is this going to look like artistically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that does play a big part of it. Because you really want to build suspense. And it's like you don't want to show what's around the corner so much as you want to like lead up to like, oh my God, they want everybody to feel, right? And I think that's a huge part of the cinematography of it is like, how, and that's why I think horror is so such a cool genre is it's like to me, like you can get a laugh out of like somebody stubbing their toe. It doesn't take a whole lot to make people laugh,
Mhm.
but like if you can bring somebody to be scared,
Yeah.
like, that's strong. That's a strong, emotion. So, I think if you can do that with, camera angles and sound design and things like that's what makes horror so powerful. And even you could find somebody that's like, oh, I'm not scared. I bet, if you go through the whole library of horror, you find something that's going to bother that person.
Oh, if you show them the part where the guy gets thrown into the basement during Evil Dead, he may not be scared, but he's gonna be shattered. He's gonna be
Yeah.
like shaken, like disturbed by like this is so goddamn disturbing.
Yeah.
That this came from someone's mind, and someone goes, yeah, I can do that. Like, so I can concoct that. Like the makeup guy's going, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned that people are getting scared. I think the comedy aspect that you find in horror films to kind of break it up, it's like a song, right? You need that breakdown in a metal song to kind of
Bridge.
create nuance within the song, or the intro, the acoustic intro into the Metallica song. You
Yeah.
just need that thing. And that's what makes the scares so much better. Like, that scene, like, oh, and 2 seconds later, they're really hit with the fright scene, and they're like they're 3 rows back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah.
you gotta, that's the whole, like, it is just like a song.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta take somebody on an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah.
And going back to vampires, I just watched I just got invited to a screening of the remake of Salem's Lot.
You
And
did not, dude.
it was amazing. It
Did you
was
watch the original?
probably, I did see the original. So
Uh-huh.
it's up to par with the original, but I will say it's probably like one of the best horror films I've seen in like the past 10 years.
Oh, dude, please tell me you can give me this spoiler. Please tell me the floating kids scene with the scratching on the windows in that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't disappoint. And like there's
Ooh,
just
ooh, who plays a vampire? Who plays Barlow?
I don't know.
Who plays the hero? Who plays David Soul?
There's like I can't off the top of my head remember because it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay. But
But
it's worthy. Okay, good to
it
hear.
is like it was like I went into it thinking like, man, like, you know, it's just gonna suck.
Yeah.
It definitely like it blew me away. And I highly recommend it. I think it's gonna come out in April
Okay. Oh
when
man,
it's
it's a
slated
long way.
for, but yeah,
So
it was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I have a question then for you.
What's
If you
that?
could remake anything, what would it be?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good one, man.
No, I want to hear that too. Give us some thought, and I also want to know who you'd put in the role of that movie you pick.
Ooh.
Like, who's going to be the lead? Like, I'm going to do Psycho, okay, and I'm going to put whoever in the Alex Winter. That's a weird name to pick out of the sky to put in the lead role. But
Yeah.
it's funny. So speaking of, you talk about like like a Salem's Lot remake. What are your thoughts on remakes?
I love
Necessary? Do you like them?
Yeah, yeah. Why not? I mean, I think why like it depends. Like I'll watch them all. Like I recently watched the remake of Wrong Turn, and it was good too. But I think I wish they gave more new content a shot.
Yeah,
as opposed to like just keep.
well, that's Hollywood's issue. Is like the original, like original content. You have uncreative bastards. What the hell?
Yeah,
So let me ask you: has there been a remake you've seen that you think is top the original?
top the original.
Like this is a better thought out version of this movie.
I a lot of people disagree with me, but I really enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Same.
The second one.
Yeah, I agree. Because
So I think
the white horse thing's a little weird. I think he just.
But I'm into it.
He needed to put his wife in, right, or the divorce was happening.
Yeah,
So
but I just like
shoehorn her in somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, I felt like it was just so weird and like kind of trippy, but it was like way more violent and like
way.
It was just like, yeah, same thing with the grittiness. I think they shot that on 16 millimeter film, and that kind of added to the grain and everything of it. But yeah, man, I think that would be, my top remake. Or they didn't like necessarily remake the Blair Witch, but there's the most recent version of Blair Witch, was actually pretty good.
The first one obviously just hit us because it was so low. No one had done like that found footage thing before, or at least to my knowledge, and for such a low budget. And it was original, if anything. But it's funny to think about zombies thing, and Ram Zombie, when he was taking on the original, like he was scared, like, fuck, I've been offered this thing, I don't want to do it, but I need to do it. He goes, what I always loved about the characters, like, and I think Malcolm McDowell played it the same way Donald Pleasance, like, you always felt that Dr. Loomis was just as crazy as Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Minus the killing, he just, in his pursuit of finding this guy, he just seemed to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears. Music. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
With my own money, it was Paranoid.
Oh, you're Sabbath, Paranoid.
Sabbath.
Okay. Yeah.
You basically you just bought it, the only album you probably ever need.
Yeah, pretty much, and then my birthday following that, my cousin gave me the Nevermind album.
Okay.
And so between Nirvana and Black Sabbath, it's just kind of shaped me as a little individual. And
it's funny because those albums are, well, they're over 30 years apart or 20 years apart, but the funny thing is they both changed the landscape when they dropped.
Yeah.
And they were both made for the times relatively well. Sabbath made 900 pounds. That's how much Paranoid cost to make, right? 900 pounds. And then I think Nevermind was like 30,000. So at the time, that's peanuts. Oh, it's just this band from Seattle. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah.
What year did Paranoid come out?
70, I think.
Okay. I'm looking up to see what the actual value of 900 pounds was in 1970.
$24 million. So, okay.
I really love the Iron Man song. And that's kind of what drove me to that. And then I found out so much more than I bargained for. I was like,
you start really delving. If you go back and you get the debut and you go, man, that was like, you talked about holding Iowa in your hands. Imagine if you're in 1969 and it's the Flower Power, and then you Sabbath. The front cover, the cover art of that album is spectacular with a woman.
Yeah.
In front of I went to that mill 3 years ago.
Really?
It's in Reading, England, and it's a flour mill. I know it takes the sexiness out of it, and all the brush has been pulled away. And you can go and look at it and stuff like that. But what they don't show is right behind it. Like if you're like facing that, right behind it is an old church. And it's a Gothic church from and all the bodies are buried that are World War II casualties.
Oh, wow.
And it's all above ground. It's like, this is so Gothic. I'm like, They should have panned and made that the back cover, right?
Yeah.
But it's so funny because that woman's identity for decades was unknown, and then they discovered who she was. The photographer like finally put a picture out of her, and she just looks like that front cover. You're like, she looks like a fucking witch. So yeah, But I love that. That's the good thing about like Paranoid was supposed to be named War Pigs. Warner Brothers said no, it can't be named War Pigs because we're in the middle of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And they just give it a great cover that's asinine. But now you look at it and you go, this is incredible.
Yeah. Well,
Same with Nevermind.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
same with Nevermind. But is there I got to ask you, since both of them have made films, Danzig or Zombie, who's a better director?
Oh man, I'm a big Danzig fan. I love his music. I definitely I lean towards Zombie. I'm like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. He's had a few more chances, I think, at making some stuff. But I do enjoy. Glenn has this thing for spaghetti vampire westerns.
Yeah, yeah, and they're not bad. I'm
No,
not,
they're fine.
they're not bad at
Yeah.
all. They're good.
Yeah.
Like
Because
I said,
I guess are they comics that he writes out and puts out and then basically turns them into films?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I didn't even know that Glenn Danzig was a director or made films.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend you delve into at least one.
Okay, I'll do that tonight. Speaking of tonight, and the fact that we're on the ShipRocked podcast, you have some DNA with some of the bands on the ship that have played the ship before, specifically doing music videos and things like that. And I would love to give our listeners a chance to hear about just how deep your DNA goes with acts like Ice Nine's Kills and the live stream concept that you did for them, and obviously, where you're at with that relationship. Could you give us a little bit of intel?
Yeah, totally. So the pandemic was going on, and I had previously edited the It Is the End music video for Ice Nine Kills, and there wasn't like anything to do in LA. It's, and it was like all evacuated, and not necessarily evacuated, but the streets were empty, right? There'd be like a coffee shop open, or like, and there would be random, like not all coffee shops. And like the street was kind of like The Walking Dead, because you'd have like, just the absolute like crazy homeless people would be out, just like it was an adventure basically. But anyways, I digress. I hit up Spencer and I was like, hey man, you want to grab a coffee? We sat there and we talked about horror films. And he's like, yeah, well, I got this idea for maybe, doing a live stream where, we all end up dead. And I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Cause like, that was back during the pandemic when everybody was just doing live streams. So then, it got molded and fit into like this, live stream where this pre-recorded performance they did mixed with this horror film that we ended up concocting. And, it was super cool. Bill Moseley was involved. Chad was involved. Chad produced it.
Chad, you produced it?
Yeah. Well,
what?
I was part of the yeah, I helped put some pieces together, large in part.
Holy shit. Okay, well that's a first.
Yeah, so it was super cool. I got to play a killer. Actually, we all kind of took turns playing the killer. I got to slit Bill Moseley's throat, which was, another bucket list moment for me. And
you're the first of many.
Yeah. But yeah, it was super cool. And then got to work with Spencer again doing the Elvis video. The Elvis was a remake of Can't Help Falling in Love with You, which was also super fun. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my history with Ice Nine.
Yeah, and then them being on the ship at least once, I know for sure. It was just, our ShipRocked fans love that sort of connection, and not just to be, not just Myles the director of all these awesome things, but Myles also the director of awesome things that also existed on, the bands on the ship. Steel
Yeah.
Panther is another, pretty cool.
Steel Panther. Yeah, man. It's kind of cool because, if I never ended up moving out to LA, I wouldn't have, these little things happen, like, get to drive the Scroober in the Steel Panther video, or
So let me ask you that about like location. It used to be a thing in the music business. That's because I know that more, but it's just like you either had to live in New York, LA, or Chicago kind of situation in order to really thing. But now you can basically live anywhere because airports and everything allow you to do that. Is it the same with film, or do you still have to kind of live in LA? Or I mean, I know that places like Georgia and New Mexico and New Orleans are filming all the freaking time here in the quarter. So I know there's these incentives for people to work here. But is it necessary still to be in LA to do what you do, or just advantageous?
I'd say it's advantageous. Like, I can't really speak on anywhere in the country. I just know that, in Miami while I was there, it kind of felt like I hit a ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's definitely more opportunities out here than, anywhere else I've been in the country. But I can only speak for me personally,
Yeah.
There's tons of great talent, in filmmakers and actors in New Orleans and Atlanta and New York. And,
Yeah, everywhere.
yeah, I mean,
you always think about those kids are like, probably like, how do I, like when you were growing up, you're like, what do I want to do? I think I want to do this, but I don't live anywhere near there, or I'm not involved in that, or know anything. And maybe
yeah,
that's the good thing is like these kids go, just keep making those backyard videos with your friends. Who knows, it'll come from it and someone will see it. And that's a great thing
yeah,
about the internet, right? YouTube
yeah.
is
Well,
yeah.
that's
Awesome.
it, man. You just keep like, keep at it, keep in the backyard with the video camera, man. That's how I started, with my friends. We were making stop motion pictures, when we were making school projects and shit like that in high school.
Yeah.
Just like little action figures and
Yeah.
Okay, so Myles, we do this thing called walk the plank.
okay.
I should probably preface this by saying Justin and I are going to ask you a question, may or may not be aimed towards what you do or music, but more importantly, we're going to ask you a question from the last guest we had on the podcast, and then you're going to get a chance to ask a question to the next guest. You won't know the next guest who's going to be, and we're not going to tell them who's asking the question until they answer it. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to go first, Justin?
Please, by all means.
What is the most unbelievable yet true excuse you have ever had for being late? And maybe this is for also because of my tardiness today that I picked this one. But let me ask it again. What is the most unbelievable yet true excuse that you've ever had for being late?
I went to get my toothbrush out of my, little toiletry bag because I had just recently come home from traveling, and I slit my thumb open on a razor. And like,
oh my God,
it slit down the middle, and I had to operate a camera that day, and I couldn't get it to stop bleeding. And I was texting the producer, and I was like, "Hey, you're never gonna believe this. I like reached into my toiletry bag, slit my thumb open on a razor, and it's not the most interesting story, but
Did you go to work? Did you actually do that?
Yeah. I just wrapped it up and went to work.
How late were you?
Probably about 30 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow. He's a timely gentleman, folks. That is
timely, totally. My question is this: since you work kind of in the area of bloodshed, what is the oddest way you've ever accidentally hurt yourself?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. It always happens.
I was reaching for my toothbrush.
It actually always happens around a toothbrush, I guess.
Really?
Because I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and I had a music video to direct the next day, and it was like one of my bigger ones that I first started out here in LA, and I bent over to spit in the sink, and I pulled my back out.
So sorry.
None of these stories are sexy, dude. I
No.
gotta tell you, bro.
No, it's just like I pulled my back out, and that would be the oddest way I've ever hurt myself.
Yeah, that's a good one. How bad did it get?
I
Like, how bad was it pulled?
I had to lay on the floor for.
I swear to God, with this guy, an apple a day brings a doctor his way.
Yeah, exactly. It was not.
You and dentists don't work.
Nope.
That's a hilarious. I'll have to tell you about the time that I threw my back out once at some point. It was the worst situation that I've ever been in for many days. So our question, and I'll tell you who's asking after you answer it from our previous guest, is if you were beamed up to an alien ship and they were to perform experiments on you, butt stuff, when you came back to Earth, would you tell anyone?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd probably call you first.
I'd be like, you're never gonna guess.
Won't believe what just fucking happened to me,
bro.
Yeah.
I'm fully gaped right now. That's amazing.
I'm dilated. 8
Yeah.
Take the pig out. Done roasted. Okay, that's great. So that was asked by Keith Wallen, the guitar player of Breaking Benjamin, as well as his own solo stuff. And I thought that was a perfect question for a Myles. I guessed the answer, and I guessed the answer that you would have had, and I think I guessed that right.
Yeah.
Well, I said yes. You didn't say yes. So now you get a chance to ask next week's or the next guest we have any question whatsoever.
Oh man, do you know who the guest is going to be?
That's the whole thing, man. You don't get to know. I do. Justin does.
Say, who would win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
Okay. Who? Okay. I love it.
All right.
Who would win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
Yeah.
Did you ever come up with your ideal remake?
Who's our guest? Is that going to be Michael Sweet from Striper?
Yeah.
He's going to have a tough time with that one.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I know I'm not telling you who the guest is, but that would be funny.
Yeah, it would be hilarious.
I'd love someone to just kind of wrestle with the idea, like, fuck, man, that's damn it.
He'd like wrestle like that. Wrestles with the idea.
Yeah, so I think I would go for Psycho. I would remake Psycho.
And who would you cast as Anthony Perkins?
Oh man. I don't know. That's a tough one too. It would probably be somebody that nobody had ever seen or heard of,
Okay.
Kind of
Yeah. No, I think yeah.
Like an undiscovered talent.
I got a question for someone who's a director in this business.
Okay.
What do you think of Robert Eggers?
I don't mind him. I really liked The Witch, right? The Northman was kind of not for me.
It started out strong and then just kind of like went into this like meditation on Norse culture.
Yeah, that's what it was. But it also had a lot of striking resemblance to was it Hamlet and also The Lion King? And I couldn't get out of that.
You're the only person in the world that would bring The Lion King into the North.
Yeah, but if you watch it, it's like,
Sure. Well, now you go, wow, you know what? He's kind of fucking right.
Yeah. I mean, and that was it. But I like his films. I guess he's remaking Nosferatu.
Dude, and who's the cat that played Pennywise?
Skarsgård.
Yeah, he's playing that's gonna be gnarly.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. Yeah,
did they do the one too with the lighthouse with Willem Dafoe? Yeah, that was mentally deranged.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Lighthouse. I mean, I can't find where I'm at with the whole concept of like people call his films and who's the other guy that did Hereditary and Midsommar? They call those A24 films. They're like elevated horror is like
okay.
the term that they use, because it's kind of like art house horror or elevated.
That I could see. It was almost like it's like Renaissance, kind of like that French cinema.
Yeah, and it's like I can, I really enjoy those movies. I don't know. I mean, there's a place for them. I don't know if like, I'm not against them. That's for sure. I'm glad they exist because as long as people keep making the kind of darker art that I like to enjoy, that I'm here for it.
Yeah. What are you working on next? What's next on for you as far as like stuff you're working on?
Oh man, so much cool stuff. I have a slasher film that I'm like really putting a lot of energy in right now. I'm going to be shooting a trailer for that soon. There's a horror film with a music group that I've worked with in the past that we're going to collaborate on.
You can't tell us.
I can't tell you.
All right. And, we appreciate that. Well,
and then there's kind of like this, I would say it's kind of like an art house romantic / horror film that I'm currently working on as well, where it's a love story kind of crossed with the inception of a serial killer, right? Like
it sounds like Psycho.
Miles. It's not Psycho.
He's remaking Psycho.
It's basically this guy that finds out that he likes killing things, but also he found his soulmate that kind of more or less pushes, has him lean into it, but
so basically supports his killing.
Yeah, basically. Okay. And and I've never really seen a film like that before, so I'm interested. And
are you gonna call it Star-Crossed Killers?
Yeah, well, it's gonna be called Like a Lamb is the kind of working title.
Really?
Like a lamb?
Like a lamb.
Slaughter?
Yeah. And it's gonna be it's really fucked up, man. It's one thing that I read recently, I don't get a lot of write-ups, but when I do, it's funny. There's this company called iHorror that does reviews, and they wrote up I did this film called Sadie, and it's about this girl that commits suicide and goes to hell. And basically they wrote it up. They're like, yeah, and in true Myles Eufurth fashion, like, there was no happy ending. There was no saving grace. And like that's pretty much with all of my stories. Like there's never like a redeeming quality. It just like goes dark and it just gets darker. And I'm fine with that.
And there's nothing wrong with it. That's the cliffhanger, right? But I love the fact that said in Myles' tradition, basically, so that means that like basically you have a track record with this critic, which is always good because now you are somewhere in their mind about things. So that's always good.
Yeah. And I just feel like, not everybody gets a happy ending. So and my story is why.
I don't know. You ever been to Bangkok?
Yeah. I'm not, no. But
I got one last question for you.
Okay, what's up?
Veronica or Death Rider if I was going to watch a Glenn Danzig directed film tonight?
I'd go with Death Rider. I'd go with Death Rider.
All right, either one.
That's what's up in queue. That's my last question.
You could probably knock out 10 minutes of each and you'd be good.
Good. That's perfect.
I see.
Danzig's an interesting guy, man. I've never gotten to meet him, but he seems super.
Obviously seems very prickly, right? He's just kind of a prick, but he's also he's not afraid to laugh at himself. Portlandia told us he's not afraid to laugh at himself, right? And the whole Ralph's carrying his cat's food or whatever to the thing was always great. Dressed in black, the mesh shirt.
Yeah.
But you know what, dude? It's Danzig and it's the Misfits. It's kind of like you kind of earn that reputation to be the way you are. You know? It's
Yeah.
fine. It's Danzig. I don't want him to be a nice guy.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
fuck it up for me?
Yeah, exactly, man. You know, they say don't meet your idols. I don't want to meet Danzig.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
listen, Myles, thank you, bro. We've had you for an hour, man. We can't thank you enough for spending time with us here on Making Waves, and we look forward to what it is you're working on. I know you can't disclose just yet, so we'll just kind of keep an eye on things. But it's really a pleasure meeting you and talking with you about this stuff. And thanks for telling us about things you've been working on and you worked on, and just your opinions and ideas on music and movies, man. We really appreciate it, and thank you for helping us broaden our audience by bringing this kind of creative film endeavor into it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Chad, we'll do this again, buddy.
Sounds good.
At some point. But hey, real quick, guys, before we leave, we want to go ahead and thank people who help make Making Waves happen, and that includes our show producer Al McManus, our show engineer Jennifer Zito, our show coordinator Heather Smith, and of course the captain Alan Koenig. We'll do this again here real soon, and we're on our way, marching towards episode 100 here shortly. So anyway, ShipRocked 2023 is sold out. We did a bunch of new additions this week of artists and bringing back comedy nights. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Anyway, stay tuned, guys. We'll drop this one, well, when it's in your inbox. Thanks.
Thanks for having
Bye, Myles.
me. Bye.